After making some videos about this ThinkPad, here's another one. So here's the story. If you watched some of my previous videos, you'll know that my main computer is this HP 15 laptop, which I bought brand new in May 2015. After installing a solid state drive, this computer flew. It worked perfectly, but I only had one complaint. It's just one thing, but it's quite important. The display. It's not just the resolution 1366 by 768 that's bad, but also the color reproduction is terrible. Everything looks washed out, black colors look grey, the viewing angles are poor, and the screen is glossy, so it's hard to use in bright environments. It works, but that's about it. On the service manual for this computer, HP doesn't show any screen upgrades. I tried looking up screen upgrades for the HP 15 notebook PC in general, but I couldn't find anything. No one has confirmed it. Maybe it could work with a different display cable and a display from a different HP laptop model, but probably the different cable would not fit, and I don't have the money for trial and error. In January 2018, I got this IBM or Lenovo ThinkPad T60 because I was interested in the world of ThinkPads. I got this model because it was cheap and it has pretty much all classic ThinkPad features, such as this classic keyboard, which is great to type on, 4:3 aspect ratio screen, and various ports, as explained in V Westlife's video about the ThinkPad X60, which is the same thing but smaller. The only catch is that this is a computer from 2006. So although it's still great for basic tasks today, in fact, I've used it to write the script for this video, it's just not powerful enough to replace my HP 15 laptop. It has a 1024 by 768 screen, which is just a narrower version of what I had in my HP 15. However, the colors are much accurate, even though it's still a TFT LCD panel. With this T60, my love for ThinkPads became definite, and I decided my next computer has to be another ThinkPad. So after a few weeks of research, I ended up with this ThinkPad, a Lenovo ThinkPad T440s. On the left side there's the charging port, which unfortunately doesn't have an indicator, USB port, cooling vent, mini display port, another USB port, and a smart card reader, which I'll never use, but this computer came with it. On the front, there are no latches for keeping the display closed, so you just open it like this. On the right side, there's a Kensington lock slot, VGA port with the screw holes, Ethernet, another USB port, SD card reader, headphone jack, and even a SIM card slot, which I tested once and it works, but I'm not going to keep my SIM card in there because it's usually in my smartphone, and when I have to use the internet from my smartphone on my computer, I use the personal hotspot feature. On the back there are just the hinges. On the bottom there's not much of interest, but it still has the drainage holes if you spill something into the keyboard, even though I wouldn't dare trying to do that on any computer. I covered up the IMEI number for the computer, and here's this various information which is hard to film. And here's the Pro Windows 8 sticker, which they put on the bottom because they know it's something to be ashamed of. All three USB ports in this computer are USB 3, which is great. And one of them lets you charge USB devices even while the computer is in sleep mode. You can open it with one hand, and inside you can see the 720p webcam and microphone. And one of the things I like the best about this computer, the display. Not only is it matte, which reduces a lot of glare and reflections, but also it's an IPS LCD screen with a resolution of 1920 by 1080. The difference in quality between this screen and my HP 15 screen is night and day. Its lowest brightness setting is also very dim, which is really helpful in pitch darkness. The mini display port is the same port my 2009 MacBook Pro has, so I already have an adapter to convert it to HDMI. And unlike my MacBook, this ThinkPad can transmit audio over mini display port, so I don't have to connect it to speakers separately. In addition, this computer has Intel dual band wireless AC that supports 5 GHz networks, and it has Bluetooth. The speakers are on the bottom, you can see them there, and they sound pretty good. They have Dolby Digital Plus enhancements, which I sometimes turn off, but they're decent compared to the DTS enhancements on my HP 15, which sound atrocious. Both computers have Realtek high definition audio. Unfortunately, this T440s doesn't support stereo mix as an audio device, but I didn't use it too often. Otherwise, this ThinkPad T440s specifications are almost identical to the ones in my HP 15, which is fine by me because I wasn't looking for a more powerful computer. It has an Intel Core i7-4600U, which is a little bit better than the Core i7-4510U in my HP 15, but they are almost identical. It also has 8GB of RAM, and it has a 256GB SATA SSD. It has the same Intel HD 4400 graphics, but no dedicated graphics unlike my HP 15. The chiclet keyboard is not as good as the one in my ThinkPad T60, but it's still nice to type on because it's very solid feeling. It beats both my Apple and HP laptop keyboards. There's no ThinkLight, but the keyboard is backlit, even though the keyboard backlight is a bit too bright even at the lowest setting. The only thing I don't like about it is the lack of caps lock indicator. It has LED indicators for FN lock, so you can use this as regular function keys or those special functions you can see there like volume, brightness and stuff, with or without holding down FN. It also has indicator lights for speaker mute and even microphone mute, which I don't like having on all the time. So when I don't use the microphone, I just disable it in the sound settings and it doesn't turn that light on. But they couldn't put a caps lock light, which is rather silly. And let's talk about the trackpad, which maybe you already know how bad it is. This generation of ThinkPads came with this infamous trackpad with integrated track point buttons. Everything is just one big button. And if you want to use the track point, which I do, you can't easily tell between the track point buttons and the rest of the touchpad. The dots over here are tiny bumps that you can feel, so you can tell between left and right here. But this definitely does not feel as good as something with real separate buttons, like this T60 or literally any other generation of ThinkPad. On my T60 I disabled the trackpad and I only use the track point. But on this one, if I disable it, it becomes rather uncomfortable to use. It is usable, but it definitely doesn't feel great. So I kept the touchpad enabled and I often use that. When I'm typing a lot, I use the track point because it's closer, one of the reasons why a track point is good. But for other things, in this case, the touchpad is more comfortable. And Lenovo does know that this is a stupid idea because in the following ThinkPad models they put back the trackpad with separate track point buttons. It is possible to replace it, but I haven't done it yet, so I'll do it when I have the chance. And I'll take this as the only major defect of this computer because everything else works pretty much perfectly. It also has a fingerprint reader here, which is very fast, much faster than the one on my T60. On the back, the red dot of the eye in ThinkPad lights up when the computer is on, and when the computer is in sleep mode, this light blinks slowly. By the way, these things are just some stupid keychains for my USB flash drives. They're characters from Ice Age. Anyway, this computer came with a clean installation of Windows 10 Pro, but I wasn't happy without reinstalling it myself. Because this computer doesn't have an optical drive, I created a Windows 10 installation USB drive using the Windows 10 Media Creation tool. As you saw by the sticker on the bottom, this computer had Windows 8 Pro, but the seller must have upgraded it, presumably for free while the free upgrade offer was still available. So I could reinstall without a product key, and it activated fine. Now let's turn it on so you can see it. Yes, I also dual booted it with macOS, but you'll be seeing that on another video. For now, let's just start up Windows 10, which is still my main OS. I just used my finger on the fingerprint reader to sign in. Its startup time is about the same as my HP 15 because the specs are so similar. The solid state drive this computer has is by Samsung, but it's not a consumer model like 850 EVO or whatever. I installed Samsung SSD utility called Magician, but it doesn't support this Samsung SSD. For firmware updates, I actually found out that the Lenovo System Update app finds them. In fact, it did find an update and installed it, so I guess I don't need a utility like this Samsung Magician. And no, the one for enterprise SSDs doesn't work either because this is not one of those models that the enterprise version of Samsung Magician supports. My phone battery is at 10%, so because I want to keep filming, I'm gonna plug it into the computer. So I can also transfer the videos I've filmed with it later. And there you go, it also comes up in the iTunes because I have it installed. I had to stop the recording to check, but now it's charging, so I can keep filming even though I don't have much to say now. We can talk about the battery life, which is not that good, but it's not the worst either. It has two batteries, an internal one and an external one. But here is the external battery, which you can remove and replace while the computer is still running, which is extremely thin. And it has a capacity of 2.06 amp hour. With the two batteries combined, battery life is about 3 hours, which isn't that great, but I really should get an extended battery. This computer's fan is very quiet. I don't have to take it apart and re-lubricate it like how I did for my T60. And the temperatures are very good. I installed Core Temp to check on the temperatures, and it usually sits around 40 to 45 degrees Celsius. It surpasses that temperature when running CPU-intensive tasks. But it usually sits around a very comfortable temperature like it's doing right now. And when it does have to turn on the fan, it's really quiet. You can barely hear it. And it's white noise, so it's easy to ignore. We can open the system properties, even though I've already mentioned the specs of this computer. There's not much to see here. I set the Windows display scaling to 125%. I could do 100% too, but 125% is a little more comfortable and 150% is too big for me. We can turn on the keyboard backlight. This is the low brightness setting, they call it. And this is the high brightness setting, which is extremely bright. And then off. There are only two levels of brightness. You can see the lights for speaker mute and FN lock, which you have to do FN escape. But it doesn't have a caps lock light. I enabled the toggle keys and sound sentry to make that noise and visual alert, but it only has that indicator on the screen, not a light on the keyboard, which is not that great. So would I recommend this computer in 2019? It may not be for everyone, but it's a solid recommendation for many people. It's not powerful enough to play heavy and modern video games, but the processor, despite being an ultra-low power model, is more than good enough. And the nice display and solid-state drive make it a pleasure to use. A T450s, the successor to this T440s, would be a little better because it comes with the proper trackpad with real track point buttons. But that's the only defect of this T440s. And this T440s is a little bit cheaper. This T440s Passmark performance test score is almost identical to the one in my HP 15. It's just a little lower because of lack of dedicated graphics, and apparently this 256GB Samsung SSD is a bit slower, but it doesn't feel slower when you use it. There's the regular ThinkPad T440 and T440p, which are slightly bigger and more powerful, but I prefer the T440s because I also wanted a slimmer and more portable computer, even if it's a bit more limited. This computer is about as big as my family HP Stream 13, but it has a bigger display and smaller display bezel. This display bezel is also smaller than the one in the regular T440 or T440p. I was also considering older ThinkPad models like a T520 or T530, or one of those powerful but thick and heavy W520 or W530 models, also with a 1080p display. But getting one of those was a bit of a gamble. There was always a catch in the ones I could find. For example, it was in bad condition or was too expensive. And none of them had IPS displays. It's true that ThinkPads aren't what they used to be, but they're still very well built, while still keeping many ports and upgrade options in most models, and without being overpriced. This T60 and this T440s together are the best of both worlds. One is thin, light and powerful, and the other one is thick and heavy, but it has useful features that you'll never see on modern computers these days. I'm keeping my HP 15 laptop because of the optical drive and dedicated graphics that make some programs like video games run a lot better. But I rarely play video games, and older video games run fine on this computer. Also, videos played locally or online play perfectly up to 1080p 60 frames per second. So the lack of dedicated graphics is not a deal breaker for me. I'm looking forward to being more productive with this T440s, and I'll be using it to edit this video because I installed macOS, which I'll show in an upcoming video, and the latest version of iMovie is an easy to use yet powerful free video editor. So for now, that's it about my quote new computer. Thank you for watching. Oh, and here's the light on the back, which I forgot to show when it's turned on. And here it is going to sleep.